Burkina Faso is changing fast, and at the heart of this transformation is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a leader who refuses to follow the old rules or bow to foreign pressure. He's not just talking about change, he's making it happen, bold move after bold move. This time, he's done something that has the whole continent paying attention. With a vision rooted in pride, independence, and self-reliance, Traoré is setting the stage for a new Burkina Faso, one that produces, processes, and profits right from its own soil. His latest decision isn't just about food or farming, it's about taking power back and building something real for the people. A move so strategic, it's shaking up the status quo and proving that when leadership meets purpose, nations rise. Once again, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the fearless young leader of Burkina Faso, has shown the world why corrupt and weak-willed African politicians fear his name. This man isn't here to make empty speeches or to beg for approval from foreign powers. And he certainly hasn't forgotten the strength and spirit of his own people. Traoré isn't interested in quick fixes or short-term applause. He's laying the foundation for a Burkina Faso that stands on its own, a country that grows its own food, produces its own goods, and competes on the world stage not as a charity case, but as an equal, proud, and self-sufficient nation. And this week, he made a move so bold, so forward-thinking, that it sent shockwaves through Africa's old power circles. On Wednesday, during a key government meeting in Ouagadougou, Traoré's team made an announcement that's got both dreamers and doubters sitting up straight. The government has launched the Faso Slaughterhouse Agency, known as Faso Yar, and believe me, this isn't just another government office pushing paper. This is the beginning of a real shift, a project built to change the lives of farmers and the future of Burkina Faso's economy. Minister Dicko explained it best: this agency will overhaul and modernize the country's slaughterhouses, making sure they meet health, safety, and environmental standards. But that's not all. It will also organize the whole chain, from livestock supply to meat distribution, making sure every step adds value right here at home. For too long, Burkina Faso has raised cattle and sent them off across the border, only for someone else to do the real business, processing the meat, packaging it, and selling it for big profits. While local farmers were left with scraps, foreign companies cashed in. But Traoré is putting an end to that old story. The Faso Slaughterhouse Agency is about building real wealth at home. It's about giving farmers a fair deal for their hard work, turning their livestock into quality meat products that proudly carry the label "Made in Burkina Faso." It means new jobs, better pay, and more opportunities for ordinary people, not just for the elite or outsiders. For the first time in a long time, Burkinabe farmers won't have to settle for the crumbs while someone else eats the feast. Traoré is showing that when a leader truly stands for his people, the entire system starts to change from the ground up. And this is just the beginning. Picture this for a moment: the busy markets of Accra, Lagos, and Dakar overflowing with premium beef and lamb, proudly raised and processed in Burkina Faso. And back home, in the quiet villages of Koudougou and Bobo-Dioulasso, local farmers count their earnings, their faces glowing with pride and satisfaction. That, my friends, is what real self-reliance looks like. That is the true taste of sovereignty. And don't for a second think this is just some random plan tossed together overnight. Captain Ibrahim Traoré isn't a man who deals in guesswork or empty promises. Since stepping up at just 34 years old, becoming the world's youngest head of state, he's had one mission: to lift his people out of poverty, out of dependence, and into a future shaped by their own hands. He's already made it clear Burkina Faso will no longer be anyone's playground. He told foreign troops to pack their bags, rejected debt traps from the IMF and World Bank, and focused his energy on the one source of wealth no outsider can steal: the land and its people. And now, with the launch of the Faso Slaughterhouse Agency, or Faso Yar Traore, has added another chapter to his story of fearless leadership. But make no mistake, this isn't just about building meat factories. This is about flipping the script on an old system that kept African farmers poor while foreign companies got rich. For too long, cattle raised under Burkina Faso's sun were sold for cheap, only to be processed abroad and resold for massive profits. But Traore's plan changes everything. With modern slaughterhouses and better logistics, the meat will be processed right on home soil, creating jobs, boosting incomes, and putting power back into the hands of local farmers. And the best part? This is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. Traore isn't stopping at livestock. His larger vision is to turn agriculture into the backbone of Burkina Faso's economic freedom. You see, in this country, farming isn't just work, it's survival. It's tradition. It's the lifeblood of millions. For too long, farmers have struggled on their own, facing droughts, poor soil, and a world economy rigged against them. But Traore is determined to break that cycle. Under his leadership, the government has done what many only talked about. Over 400 tractors now roam the countryside, 710 motor pumps are pulling water to thirsty fields, and 714 motorcycles are connecting farmers to markets that once felt out of reach. This isn't about charity, it's about building strength from the ground up. Traore understands something too many leaders forget. If you want lasting change, you don't just feed your people for a day, you give them the tools to feed themselves for generations. And that's exactly what he's doing. But it doesn't stop at machines. Traore's government has provided farmers with improved seeds, better tools, and the support they need to turn hard work into real harvests. The results speak for themselves. Tomato production skyrocketed from 315,000 metric tons in 2022 to 360,000 in 2024. Millet, one of Burkina Faso's most essential foods, jumped from 907,000 metric tons to over 1.1 million. And rice, the heart of so many families' meals, grew from 280,000 metric tons to 326,000. These aren't just statistics. These are full plates on dinner tables. These are school fees paid on time. These are families building their futures with their own hands. And let's not forget the crown jewel of this transformation, 2 brand-new tomato processing plants, the first of their kind in Burkina Faso. Proof that when a leader chooses the path of courage and vision, even a land once dismissed as poor and powerless can rise up and shape its own destiny. Traore didn't just settle for growing more tomatoes. He went further and built the backbone needed to process them into paste, sauces, and puree, all within Burkina Faso. For years, farmers watched their hard-earned harvest rot away or get sold for peanuts to middlemen, only for the country to import the same tomato paste back at sky-high prices. But those days are finally behind them. Now, thanks to bold investment and vision, the Pognyongo plant in Yako opened in December 2024 with nearly $9 million invested, can process 5 tons of tomatoes every single hour. And another plant in Bobo Dioulasso is even more powerful, handling 6 tons an hour. This isn't just farming anymore. This is transformation. This is Burkina Faso turning its soil into gold, turning simple crops into wealth that stays home and feeds the nation. Traore's strength isn't just in his policies, it's rooted in his belief. He doesn't see farmers as poor people in need of charity. He sees them as the heartbeat of the country, the foundation of real freedom. To him, A country that can't feed itself isn't truly free, and he's on a mission to change that, harvest by harvest. Last May, his government delivered over 78 billion CFA francs worth of tools, tractors, fertilizers, and seeds to the people, not as handouts, but as weapons in the battle for self-reliance. He urged young Burkinabe to form cooperatives, to roll up their sleeves, and to build wealth with their own hands. He made it clear: food independence isn't a dream, it's a duty. And it doesn't stop there. Just look at the livestock sector. Through the pre-sale project, 206 tons of fodder seeds were delivered to herders, so animals don't starve when dry seasons hit. Look at the cotton industry, new processing plants, national support centers, and more opportunities for farmers to grow beyond just picking cotton, so they no longer remain trapped at the bottom of the global chain. Traore is not simply throwing money at problems. He's laying down bricks for a system where farmers and herders grow strong together, not as survivors, but as creators of wealth. And now, with the Faso Slaughterhouse Agency, Traore is expanding this same logic to livestock. No more sending live cattle across borders for someone else to profit. Burkina Faso will process, package, and export high-quality meat from home. That means more jobs, more money in the pockets of local farmers, and more pride for the whole nation. Let's not sugarcoat it. Traore is sending a message loud and clear to every African leader who spent years fattening their wallets while their people go hungry. While they're busy flying to Paris or New York begging for loans, he's building a future from Ouagadougou, brick by brick. While others sell out their gold, oil, and crops for pennies, Traore is reclaiming mines, banning the export of raw resources, and making sure wealth flows to the people, not foreign bank accounts. And that scares the corrupt, from Nairobi to Yaoundé, from Pretoria to Abuja. Because every new processing plant, every bag of local rice, every container of Burkinabe meat leaving the port is proof of what honest leadership looks like. It's a mirror exposing the greed and laziness of those who've chosen comfort over courage. And this isn't just about Burkina Faso. Young Africans everywhere are watching. They're learning. They're asking the question their leaders fear the most. If Traore can do it, why can't ours? But let's be real, the road isn't smooth. Burkina Faso still faces threats from terrorism to drought to the claws of neo-colonial forces trying to pull the country back into poverty. But Traore isn't backing down. He's forging new partnerships with Russia, not as a servant, but as an equal. He's kicked out old colonial handlers who only ever came to take, not to give. The Faso Slaughterhouse Agency is about more than meat. It's about dignity. It's about building a country that stands tall, where the people work with pride and keep the rewards of their labor. And as agriculture blossoms under his watch, the farmers of Burkina Faso are finally holding their heads high, knowing their sweat is building a future, not just for them, but for generations to come. So here's to Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the son of the soil, the nightmare of sellouts, and the spark of hope for an entire continent. From the buzzing streets of Accra to the silent hills of the Rift Valley, young Africans are watching and rooting for a future their grandparents only dreamed about. Keep moving forward, keep building, and keep reminding us that a better future is possible. Because if Burkina Faso can rise from its struggles and stand proud, then so can every nation across this great continent. And when the day comes that history tells the story, it will begin with a young soldier who believed in an Africa that feeds its own people, stands on its own feet, and bows to no foreign master. So march on, Captain Traore Africa is watching, and millions are ready to walk beside you. Before I finish, my brothers and sisters across Africa, there's one truth I cannot stay silent about, and I hope you hear me clearly. The time has come for Africa to wake up. The time has come for us to rise from this deep sleep of dependence and reclaim the dignity that was stolen from us, but still belongs to us. For too long, our leaders have carried empty bowls across oceans, begging for aid, for loans, for permission to live when the soil beneath our feet is rich enough to feed not just our families, but entire nations. The fact that Africa, a continent blessed with endless farmland, flowing rivers, sunshine, and strong, hard-working people, still relies on handouts from outside is not just a tragedy. It's a betrayal of every ancestor who fought for freedom, and a slap in the face of every child hoping for a brighter future. This cycle must break. The begging must stop. Our leaders must stand up like giants and speak with one voice, using the power of our land, our hands, and our people to break free from the invisible chains of Western control. Agriculture farming is not just a job here. It is the lifeblood of Africa. It is the root of freedom, the foundation of real independence, and no one understands this truth better than Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. Now imagine this in Africa, where Kenya's rich maize and tea fields trade openly with Burkina Faso's sun-hardened millet and sorghum, where Nigeria's yam feeds the people of Ghana, and Ghana's world-famous cocoa sweetens the tables of families across southern Africa. This isn't fantasy. This isn't a distant dream. This is something we can make real. If only our leaders would look at the land beneath their feet and see the gold growing from the soil. The earth of Africa is full of treasure, not just diamonds, oil, and gold, but food. From the fertile hills of Uganda to the mighty river valleys of Mali, from the rich volcanic soil of Ethiopia to Zambia's endless plains. The power to feed ourselves, to fuel our economies, and to build strong, proud nations has always been here. So the real question is, why do we still beg? Why do we import food while our own farmers are struggling to survive? The answer is clear disunity, weak leadership, and a lack of courage. For too long, African leaders have believed the lie whispered by the West, that we are too poor, too weak, and too small to stand on our own. But the truth is, the West doesn't want a strong Africa. A united, self-sufficient Africa would mean the end of their control. Their aid would become useless, their loans unnecessary, and their power over our resources would disappear. And so they've spent generations teaching us to depend on them. They've convinced our leaders to believe that we can't survive without their help. And sadly, too many of our leaders have swallowed this lie and sold it to us. But the truth is plain for anyone willing to open their eyes. The land of Africa can grow anything from grains and fruits to vegetables and livestock. The only thing standing between us and a strong future is the will to work together and the courage to believe in our own hands. Every great nation you see today, from the US with its vast wheat fields to China's rice paddies to India's spice farms, was built on the backbone of farming. Agriculture is not just about food. It is about freedom, about power, about self-respect. As Captain Traoré so rightly said, "The one who feeds you controls you." Right now, the West is feeding us not out of kindness, but to keep us tied to them like obedient servants. Every bag of imported grain is another link in the chain around our necks. Every foreign loan is a trap that sinks us deeper into poverty. But the good news is, this chain can be broken. Africa can feed itself, and when we do, we will free ourselves. Burkina Faso is already showing the way. Under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, this small but determined country is writing a new story. A story where leaders no longer beg for foreign help, but build their own future with their own hands. Traoré's path isn't easy, and the world isn't making it easier for him, but he's walking it with courage. And if Burkina Faso can rise, then so can the whole of Africa. Since stepping into leadership in 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has made farming more than just a policy, he's made it the heart of a national transformation. He isn't just speaking about change, he's on the ground making it happen. In just 1 year, his government provided over 78 billion CFA francs worth of farming tools, seeds, and equipment to local farmers, encouraging them to reclaim their future by working the land. But Traoré isn't stopping there. For the first time in Burkina Faso's history, tomato processing factories have been built, turning raw harvests into finished products right at home. This shift from exporting raw materials to creating value-added goods is key. Instead of chasing loans from the IMF or relying on foreign aid, he's betting on organic farming, self-reliance, and local creativity. And it's working. In just 2 years, Burkina Faso's GDP has jumped from $18.8 billion to $22.1 billion, driven mainly by agriculture. That kind of growth doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of a clear vision and deliberate action. Traoré understands something many leaders overlook. A nation that depends on others for food is a nation that has surrendered its independence. "They lied to us," he said recently, standing shoulder to shoulder with farmers. "They told us our land is too dry, that we can't grow enough to feed ourselves. But look around, our soil is alive, and our people are ready." And he's right. The Sahel region, long dismissed as barren and unproductive, is now yielding millet, sorghum, and cowpeas in large quantities. With the right investment in irrigation, seeds, tools, and training, those harvests could multiply even more. And what Burkina Faso doesn't produce, another African country can. Kenya, for example, has rich farmland where tea, coffee, maize, and beans thrive. This is where the real potential lies, in African countries working together. Imagine a continent-wide system where each region supports the other. Burkina Faso sending shea butter and millet to Nairobi, while Kenya exports its world-class tea and coffee to Ouagadougou. No foreign middlemen, no unfair trade deals, just Africans trading with Africans, building shared prosperity. But unity goes deeper than trade, it's a mindset. Right now, many African leaders are still stuck in the past, divided by colonial-era borders and focused on gaining approval from foreign powers. Instead of cooperating, they're often caught in rivalry and dependency. Let's talk about Kenya again. It's one of Africa's most agriculturally gifted nations, yet it still spends billions importing food every year: rice, wheat, even sugar. Why? Because people have been taught to believe that their own soil isn't enough, that only Western seeds, fertilizers, and technology can keep them fed. But Burkina Faso is proving that local knowledge, traditional techniques, and organic methods can succeed even in tough environments. If Kenya and Burkina Faso combined their strengths, think of the possibilities. They could build a powerful agricultural alliance sharing resources, knowledge, and markets. The African Union should take the lead here, not just as a political body that hosts meetings, but as a driving force for real economic cooperation. Picture a continental project to map all fertile land in Africa, identifying what grows best where, and connecting farmers from Senegal to South Africa. Imagine regional food banks filled with African grains like fonio, teff, and sorghum instead of imported wheat. Think of agricultural schools in every country, equipping the next generation with the skills to farm smart, sustainably, and profitably. This isn't a fantasy, it's achievable, and it's urgent. The reason it hasn't happened yet isn't because we lack the ability, but because those who benefit from Africa's division work hard to maintain it. Western powers have long used conflict, puppet governments, and economic dependency to weaken Africa's unity. They flood our markets with cheap imports to destroy our local industries. They don't want Africa to realize its strength. But the truth is, Africa owns 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. That's not just a statistic, it's a sleeping giant. If we unite around agriculture, we won't just feed ourselves, we'll feed the world. Look at Ukraine before the war. It was known as the breadbasket of Europe. There's no reason Africa can't take that title on a global scale. Africa has everything it needs to thrive. But that will only happen when we stop waiting for handouts and start building for ourselves. Captain Ibrahim Traoré is becoming a symbol of that shift. He's not flawless, no leader is, but what sets him apart is his bravery. He's taken bold steps, removing foreign military presence, forming partnerships based on strategy, not dependence, and most importantly, putting his people and his land first. He's not asking for pity, he's planting seeds, literally and figuratively. And he's not the only one. In Uganda, President Yoweri Museveni has long spoken about the need to modernize farming. He believes, rightly so, that a continent as rich in soil and sunshine as Africa should never be importing food. His idea of building regional food reserves aligns with Traoré's bigger vision of an Africa that stands on its own. Now imagine if these two joined forces with leaders like Kenya's William Ruto and Nigeria's Bola Tinubu. Together, they could ignite a real Pan-African agricultural revolution, one rooted in unity, not competition. But the responsibility doesn't fall on leaders alone. Change starts with us, the people. We must raise our voices and hold our governments accountable. We need to back our farmers, support local markets, and stop feeding the cycle of dependency by buying imported goods that often harm our health and stifle our economies. It's also time we shift how we talk about farming. Growing food isn't a fallback option, it's a future. It's strength. In Burkina Faso, Traoré is calling on young people to join farming cooperatives and reclaim pride in working the land. In Kenya, the youth are experimenting with crops that can survive droughts. In Nigeria, young agricultural entrepreneurs, agropreneurs, are turning local harvests like cassava into exportable goods. That's the kind of energy we need. Change that starts from the ground up, led by Africans, for Africans. So here's the message, loud and clear. African leaders, stop begging the West. Stop believing the myth that our soil is useless. Stop letting old divisions keep us weak. Stand together. Invest in your farmers. Believe in your land. If we do that, Africa will rise not as a continent in need, but as a continent in charge. Traoré has lit a fire in Burkina Faso, proving that even a landlocked nation in the Sahel can rise above the odds and feed itself. If it can be done there, it can be done anywhere from the Nile to the Niger, from the Cape to the Congo. Let's share our harvests, our ideas, our strength. Let's teach our children that Africa's future is in our hands and in our soil. To sum it up, Africa's path to greatness isn't paved with loans or foreign aid. It lies in tapping into our land, our people, and our unity. Just like Captain Traoré has shown us in Burkina Faso, agriculture isn't just a sector, it's a revolution waiting to happen. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Thank you.